I had a friend that owed me money that just wouldn't pay me back, and honestly, I feel like this is something that so many people deal with, but like, really, what can you do? You can ask them for your money and maybe they'll say they'll pay you back next month. Next month comes around, they'll say they'll have it for you the next month until you eventually just forget or stop caring. But what happens when the person cuts off communication because they just rather not deal with you? You know, sure, that can be easy on them because out of sight, out of mind. But to you, not only do they still owe you money and you're left like at a loss, but you're also left with feelings of resentment, especially if they were a close friend to you. This happened to me, and considering the dollar amount was not a small one, I decided to sue. I remember the reaction I got from someone when I first told them that I was considering to sue, and it was just that it was not worth it and it'd probably be stressful. And sure, it did sound stressful, but it also felt like the only option for justice at this point. After researching small claims court, I started to feel like maybe the idea of suing is what's stressful, and you know, the whole taboo of it all, how nobody actually talks about it, you know? You don't really see YouTubers making story times about how they sued someone in small claims court. Then again, maybe it's because they haven't done it yet. Otherwise, it'd definitely be a story time. Maybe I'm the first story time on this. But this is supposed to be educational. Which, by the way, small claims court is where you sue someone or a company for under $7,500, or at least that's the dollar amount in California. I'm sure it varies from state to state. I wanted to do this video to sort of alleviate the stress behind the idea of suing in small claims court, because I feel like we usually just hear about the big civil lawsuits that sound super intimidating, you know, that are super official. But I also want to emphasize the fact that this is not legal advice. This is not a recommendation at all to sue or anything like that. This is simply my story, my experience with everything and my perspective. I was living in an apartment in downtown with my best friend until one day, out of nowhere, out of absolute nowhere, he just tells me that I'm being kicked out, that I have to leave, and I'm just in complete shock. I'm feeling so betrayed. 24 hours later, he tells me that, oh, okay, you don't have to leave anymore. So I'm like having to deal with this like mental roller coaster of emotions. I'm like, what? Trying to adjust, only to later on learn that his girlfriend actually still wanted me out, and they were planning to kick me out a little later in a more formal way. So I'm thinking, I don't want my emotions toyed with anymore. I'm leaving. So I left the apartment with most of my things, and less than a week later, they get mad at me for choosing to leave on my own free will, and they changed the locks, which I wasn't trying to like have a complete blowover fight and like end the friendship just like that. I was just really pissed off, and I still plan to get my stuff back, but just like that, without a written notice, which if you kick someone out or evict them, which is a legal term, you have to give them a formal written notice and give them 30 days, even if they're not on the lease, which was my mistake, by the way, guys. If you're living with someone, please get your name on the lease. Otherwise, you never know when they screw you over. It doesn't matter if you have bills, because I had bills to my name on that apartment. It does not matter one bit. Anyways, I always paid rent, and they actually changed the locks on the door before the month was over that I paid rent for, and I still had lots of valuables in there that I would have loved to pick up. Not to mention the money he owed me for the bills that were to my name that he told me he would pay me back in an email, but he never did because he cut off communication. Damn, that was like a personal best. Last time I told a story about how I got kicked out, it took me like an hour and a half. But that is why I sued him for the money he owed me and the property that he did not return. And actually, I've been reading up on it, and apparently you can also sue for illegal eviction, which is what he did, because you're supposed to give a formal written notice that someone has to leave within 30 days. Even for someone that's not on the lease like me, I still have rights as a roommate, you know? You can't just say, oh, you have to leave and just kick them out like that. But I'm not interested in getting extra money out of that. Like, I can accept if someone doesn't want me around, I don't want to be around there either. So I left. All I wanted was the money he owed me and my stuff back. But for some reason, he refused and cut me off completely. There was a point when I was able to get a mutual friend to arrange a day when I can pick up my stuff. Like, I made a trip to LA to pick up my stuff, and when I get there, only some of it is there. So he didn't end up returning all of my things for some reason. And one of the things that he kept, which really confuses me, is my bachelor's degree in psychology, like the certificate. I'm wondering, what does he want to do with that? Does he want to write his name over it and use it as a prop? Or, sorry for getting so personal, let's get educational. First, I want to define some terms. So the term damages refers to the loss or injury due to the defendant's actions. So this includes stuff like my property, like that's my loss because he kept it. The term defendant refers to the person defending themselves in court, so like the person you sued basically. And the person suing, so if you're suing, you are the plaintiff. I didn't make up these names, but they're actually kind of cool. Plaintiff, defendant. The first step, obviously, to file a claim. Now, this typically has to be done at the courthouse nearest to the defendant's living address, so make sure you know their address because that's very important. You don't always have to go to the courthouse physically. LA had the option to do it online, and it only cost $30 plus the convenience fee was $10, which even if I did live in California, like I feel like the convenience fee might be worth it because driving in California kind of sucks, and to go there just to file something plus the parking meters and everything. So like honestly, I kind of do recommend doing it online. And something else to keep in mind is that if you win the court case, you can make the defendant pay for any related fees to the case. I believe it was within 48 hours that I was sent an email letting me know that my case was approved, and then eventually confirmed the court date. And this is when like the reality started to kick in that, holy crap, I'm having to sue my former best friend and roommate because he won't pay me back. Like, this is what it really takes. I may have to stand in front of a judge next to him and explain the story as to what actually is happening. Like, I don't want to do this, you know? So I actually tried to email him one more time, and I said, look, dude, I've just filed a claim, and I would rather not have to go through this. So if we could actually just settle this right now, because actually like the court like highly suggests that you settle out of court. But after my email was ignored, I truly felt stupid, and I thought, okay, time for the next step. Serving the defendant. Now, this is how you legally let someone know that they've been sued and when the court date is. And usually the sheriff can do it for you, they can serve him. But for LA, at least I do not recommend it because I tried it and they give up really easily and they don't give you any updates and everything. It's just not worth it. I ended up hiring a server that I found on Yelp, which was only $15 more than the sheriff. So I was like, okay. And he actually ended up giving me updates and let me know everything and was much more professional. So that's a route I would definitely much more recommend. But if you actually know someone that is willing to serve the person, then you don't actually have to pay any money. You just can't be the person to serve them, but someone has to physically be willing to sign their name for an official like government sheet and, you know, do the whole thing for you. Small claims court is nothing like the court scenes you see on TV or movies. It's pretty organized. There's a lot of people waiting to be seen by the judge or to get their cases figured out. Everybody takes a seat, and then the court clerk will take attendance and he'll explain how the whole process will go down. Both parties will be offered a chance for mediation, so there's someone there to help facilitate you to settle out of court. And if there's no mediation whatsoever, then the judge will eventually call you by name and you'll go up to the stand, and there will be a bailiff. Oh, that's such a cool name too. He takes your exhibits, like your evidence basically. So I had mine and he took it to the judge, and then he asks you questions based on your case and then based on your exhibits, and then you answer. And the whole process is actually quite quick. I was really surprised. Like, it lasted mine probably like 2 to 3 minutes, and then when I was done I was like, oh, is that it? Like, I was thinking in my head, I was like looking around because all he said was like, you'll know my judgment soon. And then I looked around, I guess he just moves on to the next person. My defendant did not show up, so that's probably why it was also so quick, but I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, considering he's avoided me this entire time, avoided me paying at all costs, of course he's also gonna avoid the court date. Or maybe he was also intimidated because he knows that I'm the king of receipts. About a week later, I received a letter in the mail confirming that the judge ruled in my favor, and honestly, it's not too surprising because unless you have a really crappy case and really horrible evidence, the judge will probably rule in your favor if your defendant does not show up. Up until this point, the process really wasn't that stressful. Honestly, the most stressful part was probably having to plan a trip to LA from Arizona and having to drive and ask a friend if I can stay over while I do this, you know? But other than that, it's not really that bad. The worst part really is about to happen. It's collecting the debts, because the judge or the government can't do it for you. You have to take the steps to collect your debts. Both me and the defendant have received letters in the mail letting us know that I won and he lost, meaning that he has to pay me back, but he still has ignored. And the options really are for him to voluntarily pay, and then I can let the court know that it's all over and done with, or I just have to figure it out and just go through all these really tedious steps. Like, I called and it just sounds so complicated. Basically, I have to do all this extra paperwork and more filing and more fees, which he will have to pay in the end, you know? He will have to pay all these fees in the end that will build up, and all this interest, and it'll all be pulled out either from his bank account or his paychecks. So I don't understand why, even though he's received this letter, he just completely refuses. So I just wanted to share my story. And hey, maybe somebody that's been through this entire thing like knows the process and can help me out with this whole collecting part. Because when I talked to the small claims advisor, it just sounded so complicated. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's really putting some obstacles for me to get my money back. Also, not really related to the case, it's just a side note. Something that I found really interesting is that a couple weeks after I filed my claim, I received a letter from the People's Court, which I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but it's a TV show where people go to court. And I was so confused, but basically it says your benefits are that you're guaranteed your money if the judge rules in your favor. And according to the courts, 80% of plaintiffs never receive their money. So dude, am I part of a statistic now? But I don't know, I just think it's so interesting that like a TV show has your information as soon as you like file a claim. It also says that the losing party would receive $250. So hey, this could have been a good thing. We should have been on TV, bro. Anyways, that's my story. That's my experience. Definitely not legal advice, so please do not take it as such. I just wanted to give an informative, sort of educational, maybe an entertaining video for you guys, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me that like. If you've been through something similar, please let me know, and especially if you were able to collect successfully, I would love to hear all about it. I'll see you guys later this week. Thank you for watching.